So you're thinking about making the move to San Diego, or you're already here and making a move within San Diego, and you're trying to figure out if you're going to live along the coast or in one of our more inland locations. Now, there are positives and negatives to both. They definitely have pros and cons. And I'm going to take you through the good, bad, and ugly of each of those decisions so you know what the right thing would be for you. So if that's what you're looking for, stick with me because we're going to get after it right now. Now, you might think that coastal is the clear choice when you're thinking about making the move to San Diego, but it is not that simple. There are implications around weather, around overcast skies, and around traffic. Also, the lifestyle that you're going to have in terms of space, proximity to neighbors, and also visitors that are coming to San Diego, tourists that you're going to have to navigate through. So there are definitely pros and cons to each, and we're going to jump into all these different categories. Let's take a look at the positives versus the negatives so you can make a decision for yourself. Starting with the temperature, the weather. So along the coast, you're going to find that temperatures are on the cooler side. You're also going to get that prevailing breeze that comes in west to east. And so it tends to be a little bit windier and a little bit cooler. Just for context, if you're living in a neighborhood west of the 5, and that's what we tend to think of as being especially coastal, and it still would qualify as coastal if, say, you were a little bit east of the 5 freeway, especially as in some areas it's fairly close to the coast. And so sometimes you could be even a few miles east of the 5 freeway, still considered coastal. Your temperature could be a solid 8 to 10 degrees cooler than some inland locations. Now, when I'm talking inland locations, I'm not talking about being way out in the boonies. I'm talking about very common neighborhoods like Forest Ranch or Rancho Bernardo, San Marcos, like the eastern part of Chula Vista, which is the newer side of Chula Vista. There's a lot going on. And then, of course, you're talking about even further, like El Cajon or La Mesa. And so the temperatures as you go east do tend to get warmer in the hot months of the year. In the cool months, the temperatures tend to get quite cold in those far inland locations. So they'll get a lot more fluctuation. In any case, for the hottest months of the year, if we just focus on those, you could have, say, an August day where temperature along the coast could be a really nice 76, but you could be pushing 86 in these more inland locations. If you go further inland, it could even get a lot more, but we'll leave that aside. So the first thing is weather. Now, I don't know what that means in terms of for you. Is that good? Is that bad? Which one do you prefer? I know people that would prefer one, people that prefer the other. So I'm just sharing the information so you make the decision for yourself. There is something that most people prefer, though, and that is clear skies and sunshine. Along the coast in San Diego County, we have what we call the marine layer. The marine layer is a cloud layer that tends to hang out and stick around where you could have a cloudy day if you're in a location like La Jolla or Del Mar, while just, say, 10 miles east of there are blue skies hanging out in the pool, warmer weather. And just from a enjoyment standpoint, even though some of our most popular, most expensive, and just like really, desirable neighborhoods that I love spending my time in are along the coast, they could easily be socked in the clouds while the rest of San Diego is enjoying sunny skies. So it's definitely something to be aware of. If you're out looking at property, you're going to want to ask that question if this sounds like an important point to you. And of course, we'll guide you through that. By the way, speaking of which, I'm Dan Beer with Beer Home Team at eXp Realty. And there's people just like you every single day sending us messages, leaving comments. I respond to every one of them, by the way. If you look at the first pinned comment, there's easy ways to get a hold of us. And we respond to text, email, and even set up Zoom call for you so that you know exactly what to expect on your visit to San Diego, or maybe you're already here, where we'd be happy to grab a coffee. Now, another difference between coastal living and more inland living in San Diego is going to be the type of land you have, your property itself. As you get closer to the coast, and there are exceptions, okay? So please do let us know what neighborhoods you're considering. We'll tell you if this applies, because there's certainly exceptions. But if we just look at the norm, the average, as you move toward the coast, land will get tighter, tighter, tighter. As you move inland, you're going to get a little bit more elbow space, and as you move far inland, you'll eventually get even acreage. So, of course, price can change that story entirely. You pay enough, you're going to have all the elbow room you want, even right on the ocean. But For the most part, when we're just talking about an average home in town, you're going to have much closer living quarters as you move toward the coast than if you're out in more inland suburbs. Now, speaking of suburbs, along the inland corridor, that is a lot more just, planned neighborhoods and maybe some parks and the strip malls that are there. And so it's not that exciting from an urban standpoint at all. If you're the type that likes kind of, to get away from the chains and that likes really just eclectic local flair, that likes a walkable neighborhood, that really enjoys more of that kind of village living. And what I mean by that is our coastline in San Diego County is so awesome in that it's really a collection of all these small towns and villages, all with their own personality, and most of them very walkable. So whether you're looking at Coronado, definitely it has that. As you move up, by the way, downtown San Diego is actually coastal. It's right there on the water and has loads of walkability and that kind of personality. But they all do, really. If we go all the way up the coast through Pacific Beach, Ocean Beach, La Jolla, Del Mar, Carlsbad, Encinitas, Solana Beach, I mean, all of them, all the way up through Oceanside, have a walkable kind of almost like coastal urban sort of vibe to them that is very, very cool. Now, again, in the suburbs, much more strip mall oriented, parks, it's just different out there. And at the same time, you're dealing with less nuisances, less noise. It's quieter. There's you avoid really, for the most part, any kind of the homeless problems or any of those things that do happen here in San Diego. And not only that, but of course, with the great vibe and energy that comes with these kind of coastal towns, plus just San Diego being famed for its beaches, comes tourism. Especially if you're in the summer here in San Diego. I mean, you're driving around, you're over anywhere near the beach. Good luck finding a California license plate because you're going to see Arizona, Arizona, Arizona. I mean, the place literally almost empties out and they just come and visit San Diego. It's like an Arizona invasion. And so you have to deal with a little bit more crowding. Traffic will kick up in the summer months, no question about it, if you're out along the coast in any of these popular locations. While inland locations, they're just living life as usual and are not experiencing those things. So that might be you thinking, well, gee, that sounds actually awesome. I love that kind of energy. I love people. I like to walk around, bump into new people. Yeah, right, that's for you. If you're more like, hey, leave me alone, I'm doing my thing, and when I look outside, I just want to see some space, you're then wanting to explore the inland locations in San Diego County. And of course, wrapping up with price. Price is going to rise as you move toward the coast. It's going to drop as you move inland. Again, there's some exceptions out there. Chula Vista being a notable exception, where actually the most expensive parts of Chula Vista are inland versus on the coast. And of course, some just more nuanced kind of subdivisions and locations where there's, country club locations as an example along the inland side parts of San Diego. But ignoring those sorts of special, situations, the coast is more expensive than the inland locations, even to the point where you take a neighborhood like Carlsbad as an example, where part of Carlsbad is west of the 5 versus east of the 5. Well, you could literally just jump a couple blocks over, go from east of the 5 to west of the 5, just a few blocks, and pricing's going to jump in a way that you will absolutely notice. You take a look at a place like Solana Beach, again, east of the 5, west of the 5, same thing. And so that's just something to keep in mind, especially when you get west of the 5 freeway. You're going to see a jump in price along with a reduction in property size, and it's just something to know and something to expect so it doesn't catch you by surprise. But again, I think you've caught one of the themes of this video, which is there's a lot of nuances. There's pockets where those rules, so to speak, if these, or these norms are broken, you can find deals, you can find the right locations, you can find space, regardless of if you're west of the 5 versus east of the 5. And that's where we come in. So if we could help you make a smooth move to San Diego, just hit us up in the comments. Or most effectively, go to that first pinned comment. There's a variety of ways for you and I to get in touch directly, and I can't wait to be with you. See you on the next video.